Hello, friends. Welcome to this week's episode of Reverence for Reverie. I'm Marrissa, your host, and as always, I am so glad that you're here. If you listened to our last episode, you'll remember that we dove deep into the nature of consciousness, how it shapes our reality, and how much of it lies beyond our everyday awareness. Well, today we're zooming in on a specific piece of that puzzle, the psyche. You might recognize the word from terms like psychology or what I've been referencing, psychoanalysis. But its roots go much deeper. In its original Greek, psyche doesn't actually mean mind as we often interpret it. It means soul. This realization opens up a whole new way of looking at ourselves. What if the psyche, the soul, isn't just a collection of thoughts and feelings and behaviors, but something deeper, something energetic? In this episode, we'll explore how the psyche connects to energy, emotions, and what some call the quantum field. We'll talk about practices like energy work, such as Reiki, which happens to be the version of energy work that I currently practice, and how they bridge ancient wisdom with modern science. We'll also take a look at how our emotions impact our energy field and ultimately our well-being. I'll also share a little bit about my own experiences with energy work, how it's helped me connect with my soul in a whole new way, building on what we've learned about consciousness last time, and taking us further into these fascinating aspects of our reality. So let's get started. All right, so let's start by zooming in on the idea of the psyche. In our modern world, we often treat the psyche like a kind of central processing unit, the part of us that thinks and analyzes and makes decisions. We say things like, it's all in your head, as if everything about our inner world can be pinned down to neurons firing in the brain. But in ancient Greek, the word psyche meant something far more profound. It referred to the soul, the animating essence that gives life to our bodies and connects us to something much bigger than ourselves. Long before psyche became synonymous with mind, it held a different meaning. To understand why, we can look to one of the most enchanting love stories in Greek mythology, the tale of Psyche and Eros. Psyche was said to be a mortal woman of such breathtaking beauty that she stirred the envy of the goddess Aphrodite herself. In a bid to humble this mere human, Aphrodite dispatched her son Eros, the winged god of love, to cause Psyche's downfall. But in a twist worthy of the greatest romance, Eros falls deeply in love with the woman that he was supposed to punish. Their forbidden bond wasn't without obstacles. Eros, keen to protect their union from his mother's wrath, visited Psyche only under the cover of darkness, forbidding her from ever laying eyes on him. Yet doubt crept into Psyche's heart, and one night she lit an oil lamp to gaze upon her mysterious lover. Eros fled in a heartbreak at her lack of trust, leaving Psyche consumed with regret and determined to win him back. From there, the goddess Aphrodite subjected Psyche to a series of seemingly impossible tasks, sorting vast heaps of grains before dawn, gathering the golden fleece of vicious rams, and even venturing to the underworld to retrieve a precious box of beauty. Each trial tested her courage, ingenuity, and commitment. And with the help of friendly creatures and her own steadfast resolve, Psyche completed every challenge and ultimately proved her devotion. In recognition of her perseverance, Psyche was granted the gift of immortality and welcomed among the gods. She was reunited with Eros, and their love became everlasting, an emblem of the soul's triumphant journey towards wholeness. Psyche's journey isn't just a love story. It's a mythic map of the unconscious itself. If we read Eros as the life force of the psyche, its vitality, desire, and instinctual energy, then Aphrodite, with her impossible demands, becomes something more than a jealous goddess. She takes on the role of the superego, that inner authority within us, imposing rules, setting standards, and guarding against transgressions. When Psyche disobeys the condition never to look upon her lover, it mirrors the way the unconscious mind, when illuminated too suddenly, activates defenses meant to keep its depths hidden. The immediate consequence is loss. Eros flees, much like how unconscious material, when confronted too directly or too quickly, slips away before it can be fully integrated. Yet Psyche's trials are not punishments, they are initiations. Each impossible task, the sorting of the grains, facing deadly forces, descending into the underworld, reflects the psyche's struggle to navigate the forces within itself. The unconscious is not simply a vault of repressed material, but a dynamic landscape, one that, when engaged with perseverance and courage, leads to transformation. And so, through suffering, growth, and relentless pursuit, Psyche is ultimately granted divine status. She becomes immortal, not because she has conquered Eros, but because she has evolved enough to meet him as an equal. The myth reminds us that our own inner work, no matter how grueling, is not about eradicating the forces that challenge us, but about integrating them. Just as Psyche's journey led her to divine union, our deepest encounters with the unconscious, when met with openness rather than fear, lead to something far greater than we could have ever imagined. The psyche, in this sense, is not just the mind nor the soul, but a bridge between what is hidden and what is possible. This myth reflects the Greek belief that Psyche isn't just a seat of thoughts or rationality. It's part of us that can suffer heartbreak, grapple with uncertainty, and ultimately transcend limitations through love and perseverance. Just as Psyche's trials led her to divine transformation, our own inner obstacles can pave the way for profound growth. When we hear the word psyche, we might now imagine not just the mind, but also what I'm referring to as the soul, the dimension of us that evolves, endures, and holds the promise of metamorphosis. When we shift from viewing the psyche as merely the mind to embracing it as the soul, it's like stepping through a new doorway into a hidden realm within ourselves. Suddenly, our inner world isn't a swirl of thoughts and emotions. It's a vibrant, pulsing field of energy. Think about it this way. The soul isn't some wispy presence hovering in the background. It is the spark that animates us, the force behind every heartbeat and every creative impulse. It's the difference between analyzing the colors and brushstrokes of a painting and feeling the emotional resonance that radiates from the canvas. This brings us to a pivotal question. What is energy, and how does it connect to the psyche? Scientifically, we tend to define energy in quantifiable terms like heat, light, or electricity. But in spiritual and philosophical traditions, where it's called chi, prana, or life force, energy is the current weaving through all of existence. It's the vitality that makes seeds sprout, that rejuvenates us when we're immersed in nature, and that permeates every cell of our bodies and every thought in our minds. Once we start seeing the psyche as woven into this universal flow, our sense of who we are expands. We're no longer just biological machines reacting to stimuli. We're energetic beings in constant dialogue with a vast interconnected cosmos. While it might sound lofty, we see hints of it every single day. How someone's mood can change the atmosphere of a room, or why standing among towering trees can nourish us both physically and spiritually. These glimpses point to how energy flows through the psyche, shaping our thoughts, emotions, and even our relationships. A If you start paying attention, you'll notice everyday hints of how energy moves through and around us. Have you ever stood close to someone who's genuinely excited about something? Maybe it's a friend bursting with good news, and you feel that thrill ripple throughout your own body. Or think about walking into a room where two people have just argued. The tension seems to linger in the air, almost like a charge that you can sense. The songs you choose in the morning can either light you up or dampen your mood, as if the music carries its own frequency that entrains your energy. And hint, it does. It really does. There's a reason we don't listen to gentle, sad music when we're working out. Even the way we speak about being in high spirits or low energy reflects an instinctive understanding that our internal states vibrate. Nikola Tesla famously said, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." It's a reminder that what we experience as solid matter or fixed reality isn't quite so rigid when viewed through a broader lens. In a similar vein, Albert Einstein showed us that matter and energy are two sides of the same coin. His equation, E equals mc squared, revolutionized how we understand the universe, implying that what looks physical is at its core a field of energy. So when we speak of the psyche, our soul, as linked to these currents, we're simply recognizing a deeper truth that visionaries like Tesla and Einstein pointed to. Everything is in constant motion, and we are part of that universal dance. Whether it's the jolt you feel when you lock eyes with someone across a crowded room, or the hush that settles in your body as you watch a breathtaking sunset, these moments are small portals into the energetic tapestry that underlies all of existence. Seeing your psyche as an energetic being within that tapestry naturally expands your sense of what's possible, personally, spiritually, and even scientifically. So today, we're diving deeper into what it means to live from this soul-centered perspective, where the psyche is both an endless source of inner wisdom and a gateway to something much, much larger than ourselves. And once we open up to that possibility, we discover that energy isn't just a scientific term or some mystical ideal. It's the animating force that is sparking our greatest potential, bridging who we are and who we might become. I want you to picture yourself shrinking down, far smaller than a cell, beyond the molecules, and into the realm of subatomic particles. What once seemed solid dissolves into vibrant waves and flickers of energy. Here, even the line between matter and emptiness blurs. It's in this mysterious domain that the language of spiritual traditions, speaking of prana, ki, or chi, meets cutting-edge physics, describing the quantum field, where particles remain in a state of probability until observed. Suddenly, you realize that mystics and scientists might be describing the very same cosmic dance, just from different vantage points. Beginning to understand this convergence is what lights me up, and it's exactly what I hope to bring forward in further dialogue throughout the entirety of this podcast. So why does this matter for us? Because if everything is energy, then our thoughts, emotions, and yes, even our souls are woven into this universal fabric. It might sound abstract, but think about those moments when you feel truly lit up inside, an undeniable sensation of expansion in your chest, or a surge of inspiration coursing through your veins. That's your energy flowing. And conversely, there are times you sense yourself contracting. Your shoulders hunch, your breath tightens, and your mood spirals downward. These shifts are not random. They reflect how well, or how poorly, our personal energy system is moving. Now, consider the psyche. If it's the vital essence that animates us, it's also part of this grand energetic network. How we engage with our emotions, care for our bodies, and direct our focus shapes the flow of energy in our lives. Even small daily choices like a mindful breath, a moment of gratitude, or a gentle walk in nature can tune our vibrational state, deepening our sense of connection to ourselves and to the wider universe. That's why taking care of our energy field isn't merely about feeling good physically. It's about tending to the core of who we are so that everything from our creativity to our relationships aligns with this deeper rhythm of life. When we embrace this perspective, we start to see that what appears as solid reality may be more of a fluid interplay between seen and unseen forces. We're not isolated islands at the mercy of random events. We're active participants in a vast energetic conversation. And that, at its heart, is both exhilarating and empowering. Because once we acknowledge our role in the flow of energy, we can begin to shape it with intention, drawing on that same universal current that sustains galaxies, seedlings, and our own inner spark. One of the most immediate ways we sense energy in our daily lives is through our emotions, sometimes in subtle, surprising forms. Consider the sudden calm that can wash over you the moment you step into a quiet library, or think about how simply playing an upbeat song can lift your mood, whereas sad music might make your whole body feel heavier. These everyday moments highlight the ways that our emotions are like currents of energy, moving through us and interacting with the environment around us. Now, picture your internal energy field as a flowing river, perpetually shifting and changing. When you're feeling love, gratitude, or joy, the water runs crystal clear and invigorating, helping you breathe more easily and lightening your whole presence. It's as though this current energizes every part of you. In that open, free-flowing state, you become more receptive to connection and often inspire a similar ease in those around you, like a gentle mist cooling the shoreline on a hot day. But what happens when you hold on to unprocessed emotions? Anger, fear, sadness, resentment. These heavier feelings act like branches or debris trapped in the current, gradually forming blockages. If enough of this emotional wreckage accumulates, your river slows and becomes clouded. You might feel chronically tense, exhausted, or weighed down. And over time, these blockages can solidify into stagnation, leading to persistent stress, burnout, or even physical ailments. Here are some ways that you might see it in the real world. So I'm thinking of someone we might call the emotional sponge. Maybe you know someone like this. They're so empathetic, they seem to soak up every feeling in the room. Without a way to process or release the emotions they absorb, their own river becomes choked with external debris. Or think about the communal currents that we all navigate. At a wedding, for example, the collective excitement is almost palpable, as though everyone's joy merges into this one exuberant flow. And at a funeral, a shared heaviness can settle over those present. Group emotions truly shape the waters that we navigate together, whether they're bright or somber. Tending to this emotional flow isn't just a spiritual notion, it's fundamental self-care. Recognizing your emotional state as energy encourages you to pay attention to what's coursing through your own inner river. Whether it's journaling, meditating, pursuing therapy or psychoanalysis, or simply talking openly with trusted friends, these practices can act like removing that debris and letting the water run clear again. By viewing your emotions as these living currents, you remember that you're never permanently stuck with heaviness or turbulence. Just as a river can be restored to clarity and movement, so can your emotional and energetic well-being, with a bit of conscious effort. And when you free your own flow, you also enrich the collective waters around you, bringing a more vital, harmonious energy into every space that you're entering. So we've been talking about energy in a way that might feel abstract. So let's take a look at the growing body of science that backs it up. While references to chi or ki can sound mystical, Modern research increasingly supports the idea that our emotions, beliefs, and unconscious processes have very real physical effects on our bodies. Consider how intimately your emotional state ties into your physical body. When you're stressed or afraid, hormones like cortisol and adrenaline flood your system, quickening your heart rate, tensing your muscles, and shortening your breath. On the flip side, feeling safe or loved prompts the release of oxytocin and dopamine, creating warmth, relaxation, and a sense of well-being. It's a powerful reminder that our inner states don't just influence our bodies, they really shape them. But these aren't the only examples. Laughter often arrives unbidden, yet can instantly lift your mood by releasing endorphins, melting tension and brightening your entire outlook. Crying can be unexpected relief, as tears help release pent-up emotional pressure. And consider orgasms. I mean, come on, where the physical sensation and emotional connection merge, creating a flood of neurotransmitters that elevate mood and can deepen intimacy. Each instance shows how our emotions, whether joyful or painful, reflect and transform our physiology in very tangible ways. What we often dismiss as just feelings are actually complex, whole body events, underscoring how crucial it is to care for both our emotional and our physical well-being. Next, let's consider one of the most intriguing phenomena in modern medicine, the placebo effect. We see it time and time again in clinical trials. Patients report real improvements in their symptoms, sometimes even miraculous recoveries, after receiving what turns out to be a harmless sugar pill. The only active ingredient? Their belief that the treatment would help. But what's really happening here? Is it just wishful thinking? Researchers have actually measured genuine physiological changes, reduced inflammation, lower blood pressure, even shifts in brain activity that mirror what one would see with actual medication. This suggests that our mindsets, expectations, and underlying faith in the healing process can directly influence the body's biochemistry. It isn't all in your head. It's in your cells, your hormones, and your neural pathways. For many, the placebo effect raises a pivotal question. If believing in a sugar pill can trigger healing responses, what else could be possible if we harness the power of our thoughts and emotions more intentionally? It's a testament to the incredible, sometimes mysterious, interplay between consciousness and physical reality. And it pushes us to consider how deeply our perceptions are shaping our health. Now, if something as intangible as belief can catalyze healing, what about the opposite scenario? When our unconscious, unresolved feelings act like hidden obstacles in the flow of energy. Picture your inner world as a network of pathways where your emotions, thoughts, and bodily processes are all intersecting. Unprocessed and repressed and suppressed anger, fear, or grief can accumulate like debris in a stream, slowing the current until it stagnates. And over time, these energetic traffic jams can manifest as chronic tension, migraines, digestive issues, or general fatigue. It's crucial for you to understand that this perspective isn't about blaming you for your illness. Rather, it invites a more holistic view. Factors like emotional stress, past traumas, and deep-seated beliefs might be a part of what's perpetuating a physical ailment. Western medicine increasingly acknowledges this through the biopsychosocial model, recognizing that biology, psychology, and socio-emotional context all converge to shape our health. From insomnia to autoimmune conditions, many patients find that addressing emotional undercurrents through therapy, meditation, or energy work produces significant improvements. It's as if untying one energetic knot sets off a cascading effect of healing throughout the body. This is also where psychoanalysis and related modalities step into the spotlight. Sometimes a patient may undergo exhaustive medical testing for pains, headaches, or other symptoms that defy physical explanation. Instead of finding a physiological root cause, the next step is to look inward. exploring unacknowledged emotions, repressed memories, or traumatic experiences that could be translating into real physical distress. Psychoanalysis views the body as a kind of stage where unconscious dramas begin to play out, a concept known as psychosomatic symptomology. If early life experiences taught someone that anger was dangerous or sadness was unacceptable, the body might express those feelings instead through persistent aches, fatigue, or health anxieties. By bringing those hidden parts of ourselves into awareness, by naming them, understanding their origins, and finally giving them space to be felt, many people find relief. They discover that the symptom was less about a direct physical disorder and more about an emotional message that was waiting to be heard. In my practice, I've encountered many individuals who routinely find themselves in the ER, convinced they're having a heart attack. Their chests are tightened, hearts pounding, and a crushing sense of dread is taking over. Even the doctors sometimes suspected cardiac issues, yet all the tests would come back clear. I mean, you can imagine the bewilderment. How can something so terrifying and physically real not be a heart problem? Over time, though, we uncovered that these episodes stemmed from deep-seated fears or anger or long-buried traumas that had never been processed. With therapy, these clients learn to identify and name these emotional undercurrents fueling their panic. And as you can imagine, this takes plenty of time and effort. Yet, as they acknowledged these internal experiences and worked through them, many reported fewer and less severe episodes. Some even found complete relief. This is a profound illustration of how the unconscious can shout through the body when no other channel feels safe or available. And it's not just anxiety or panic attacks that can reflect deeper emotional undercurrents. I know I've mentioned that in previous episodes, but in my work and in broader clinical observations reported widely, people with chronic or autoimmune conditions often discover that their internal emotional landscape can really influence the course or intensity of their physical symptoms. While each individual's journey is very unique and professional medical care is essential, these stories illustrate just how emotional factors sometimes play a surprising role. For example, with migraines, one client experienced debilitating migraines that seemed to just strike out of nowhere, often derailing her work and family life. Through therapy, she uncovered a pattern. These episodes were frequently following intense but unexpressed anger and resentment, and they would show up in the body as this increased stress and tension. Over time, and by learning to safely articulate those feelings, and of course, recognizing these early signs of tension, her migraine frequency and the severity noticeably decreased. Another example is fibromyalgia. Another individual I'm aware of that had fibromyalgia found her pain flared up often when she felt consumed by guilt or shame, typically rooted in unresolved childhood experiences. She practiced mindfulness and explored her past through therapy. She began processing these emotions more healthily. And although her fibromyalgia itself didn't vanish, she felt greater stability within her condition, and there were fewer and less intense flare-ups. Another example is Crohn's disease. There's a young adult I'm aware of with Crohn's disease who suffered frequent, painful flare-ups that often coincided with high levels of stress, especially around unresolved family conflict. This person worked with a therapist to address those relational tensions, and he gradually realized that repressed anger and anxiety seemed to really exacerbate this digestive distress. While Crohn's is a complex autoimmune condition requiring ongoing medical treatment, learning to navigate the emotional triggers helped lessen the severity of those flare-ups and improved the overall quality of his life. So in each of these examples, recognizing the emotional, physical link provided an added layer of support. It's crucial to remember these conditions have complex, multifaceted causes, and professional medical treatment remains vital. However, addressing unprocessed emotions and unconscious beliefs often prove to be a catalyst for reduced symptom severity, increased resilience, and a new sense of autonomy. Again, these stories aren't about blaming anyone for their illness or suggesting that psychology alone causes these conditions. That's not the case at all. Rather, they highlight how our inner world interacts with our physical health and how acknowledging that interplay can open doors to more holistic and effective approaches to managing chronic ailments. Given how powerfully our emotional and energetic states affect our bodies, it's no surprise that many traditions, Eastern and Western both, ancient and modern, offer tools to address these blocks. In future episodes, we'll be diving deeper into methods for identifying and releasing obstructions in our energy flow. Whether we use Eastern concepts like meridians and chakras or Western ideas about repressed experiences, the goal is the same: restoring harmony across our physical, emotional, and spiritual dimensions. We'll explore how different practices like Reiki, acupuncture, psychoanalysis, somatic therapy, or even mindful movement can converge, each providing a piece of the puzzle. The deeper message here is that recognizing the mind-body connection is not just fascinating, it's empowering. It truly is. It means that we play an active role in our own healing, growth, and evolution, tapping into a wellspring of wholeness that goes beyond simply alleviating symptoms. So if you're intrigued by the notion that every thought and emotion shapes your physical reality, you're in good company. The same energy and motion, or emotion, that makes you feel vibrant can also, when blocked, contribute to distress. The positive news is that awareness, intentionality, and consistent practice offer powerful ways to work with these energies, leading to more holistic health, emotional balance, and a deeper sense of self. In other words, it's a journey well worth taking. Think of energy work as a pathway to nurturing the psyche or soul by tending to the currents that flow through our bodies and connect us to the wider universe. Reiki, acupuncture, breathwork, these practices may vary in technique, but they share a core understanding. An invisible force, by whatever name you choose to call it, moves through and around us. And when the current moves freely, we often feel grounded and in sync with life. When it's blocked, a sense of disharmony can follow, sometimes showing up as stress, physical tension, or emotional disconnection. Reiki is the practice that I currently use for energetic hygiene, health, and awareness. It involves a practitioner gently engaging with your energy field to release stagnation and encourage a return to balance. Rather than forcing anything to happen, Reiki aims to support the body's own drive toward equilibrium. I think that's the reason I've felt such a resonance with this practice, is that the principle aligns very much with the way that I view human change through therapy and psychoanalysis. I believe we all hold what we need inside of us, and most of us will move towards health when the appropriate conditions are provided. We can't be forced into change, but rather, if we are held in a conducive environment on a consistent basis in a way that allows change to naturally emerge, it can happen. Acupuncture operates similarly. Specific points are stimulated to guide qi through meridians, effectively remapping internal pathways so that the body can realign itself. Even simple breath work uses focused attention on inhalation and exhalation to help the body's inner currents recalibrate, allowing for a more relaxed and open state of being. There is good reason that one of the first techniques you may learn in order to regulate your nervous system during anxiety and panic attacks is box breathing. The process of deep inhalation and exhalation is stabilizing to our nervous system, which, in other words, could certainly be considered a crucial part of our energy body. At first, talk of energy fields and energy bodies might sound purely mystical, and I get it. But quantum physics offers intriguing parallels. On the subatomic level, particles defy our everyday logic, appearing in multiple states at once, interacting instantaneously across distances, and seeming to rely on observers to collapse into a specific reality. It points to this underlying quantum field, a universal backdrop where particles exist as potential rather than fixed entities. When we engage in Reiki, meditation, or even something as simple as setting a heartfelt intention, we could be aligning ourselves with that very same underlying web of interconnectedness that scientists are still unraveling. The warmth, tingling, or emotional release one might feel during an energy session aren't necessarily all in the mind. They are felt expressions of shifts in these subtle underlying patterns, an echo of ancient wisdom speaking through modern experience. The result? A blurring of lines between woo-woo and empirical data, as the phenomena once dismissed as intangible starts to resemble the mysteries that are currently being studied by physics. It doesn't mean every claim of energy healing can be measured in a lab, at least not yet. But it does remind us that the world is richer and more interconnected than our senses alone can even perceive. The same force that animates our selves might just be the one that sparks a Reiki session's calm or the tingling clarity of a meditative breath. And the more we explore, the more we realize that ancient teachings and modern science might be hinting at the same profound truth. We're all part of this vast energetic tapestry waiting to be discovered in both body and soul. I remember the first day that I heard the word Reiki, and at the time it seemed completely foreign to me. I was sitting in the waiting room for my own chiropractor appointment when an older woman approached me out of nowhere. She told me I'm a light worker, very matter of factly, and I was confused. I didn't know what that meant. I'd never heard that term at the time. So I corrected her. I said, actually, I'm a therapist, but thank you. And she just smiled and she nodded at me very knowingly. And she's like, yeah, that's a type of light worker. Then she hands me this business card and explained that she was a Reiki master. And she mentioned that she could sense I had these strong intuitive gifts and energy working abilities. And while I'll admit I did walk away curious, if I'm completely honest, I was also thinking maybe she wasn't connected to reality. But I didn't follow up with her. And if I could speak to her now, I'd love to thank her for planting that seed. And I think she did something energetically there, because little did I know it would set the stage for this powerful new chapter in my own life. Over the next few months, Reiki kept popping into my orbit on social media, in casual conversations, even random ads. It was so strange. It felt like synchronicity was nudging me towards something that I wasn't quite ready to believe in. Eventually, I did find a local practitioner, and I decided to give it a try, partly out of curiosity, and partly because I'd begun to sense my own spiritual awakening really taking shape at this point. Entering my first session, I was still admittedly skeptical. I half expected little more than a pleasant spa-like experience, and hey, that would have been good enough for me. Almost immediately, though, I did feel a warm, tingling radiation coming from my teacher's hands, like static electricity in the air almost. My body started buzzing, and at one point, I even grew lightheaded. There was kind of a whirring feeling around my head, as if I'd briefly stepped outside of the usual confines of reality. And then the tears came. There was no clear reason, just this profound emotional release that caught me completely off guard. I left with many more questions than answers, but one thing was certain. Whatever had happened in the session was very real, and it had shaken my skepticism to the core. Over time, my interest grew into my own calling. I trained with my teacher, eventually obtaining my own Reiki master attunements. And looking back, it's incredible to think of how this simple encounter in a waiting room planted the seed for such a transformative journey. What began with doubt ended in a profound internal shift, one that continues to reshape how I see healing, energy, and the power of intuitive connection. And that's why energy work can be so transformative. It's not just about soothing the nerves or clearing the mind, though it does often do that. It's about rediscovering the very essence of who you are, your psyche, your soul. In these moments, we sense firsthand that the currents running through us aren't isolated, but are part of this interconnected field of life. And when we learn to engage with that field consciously, we open doors to healing, growth, and a richer sense of belonging to the cosmos. Now let's circle back to the theme of reverie. I continue to reference it. This time, let's picture it as this inner sanctuary where your deeper knowing can finally speak and where you have the space to truly listen. When we bring energy awareness into this space, something beautiful happens. It's not just a moment of relaxation or wandering imagination, but a doorway to profound insight and healing. In that quiet and still, we can sense the subtle currents moving within us, the gentle flow of breath, the warmth in our chests, or maybe even the places where our energy physically feels blocked or heavy or even painful. Recognizing these sensations allows us to align more consciously with our soul's wisdom and open new doors into self-understanding. In psychoanalytic theory, particularly in Beyond's work, Reverie describes a caregiver's capacity to take in an infant's chaotic emotions and experiences, mentally process them, and then return them in a more manageable form. He introduced this as the concept of the maternal reverie, and he used it to explain how a caregiver's receptive, empathetic state of mind can contain a child's overwhelming emotions. Imagine a parent that's holding a crying infant, gently tuned into the baby's needs. The child can't yet name or process these feelings, so the parent temporarily holds them, providing a calm space until the distress passes. Think of it as the parent holding, metaphorically, the baby's overwhelming states until the child is soothed. This process teaches the child on a fundamental, felt level, on this embodied level. It's safe to feel what I'm feeling, and there's a way to make sense of it. But what happens when that caregiver isn't able to contain or attune to the child's emotional needs, perhaps due to stress, their own unresolved trauma, or lack of support? This is really common. And in that scenario, the child is left alone with intense, unprocessed emotions. Instead of developing an internal sense of safety, the child may learn to suppress, avoid, or disown feelings that feel too overwhelming to handle. Over time, those split off, unmetabolized emotions can manifest in a variety of ways. One might be the reduced capacity for self-attunement. Without the early experience of having a caregiver reliably name and soothe difficult states, the individual may struggle to identify and regulate their own emotions as they grow up. They might become disconnected from their inner world, unable to fully engage in emotional regulation, daydreaming, introspection, or the gentle reflection we call reverie. Emotional and somatic symptoms might show up. So these unprocessed feelings don't just simply disappear. They often resurface through the body. Chronic tension, migraines, gastrointestinal issues might emerge as the body's way of expressing what the mind has learned to keep buried. Anxiety, panic attacks, and other psychosomatic symptoms can also arise when distress remains uncontained. Impaired relationships. If early attunement was inconsistent, the grown individual might find it difficult to trust or feel safe in relationships. Again, this is so common. They might oscillate between seeking validation and pushing people away, mirroring the unstable emotional environment that they experienced earlier in life. And of course, limited reverie, because reverie is partly about feeling safe enough to wander internally, to explore thoughts, images, and emotional states. And those who grew up with uncontained emotions might find this practice deeply uncomfortable, even disturbing. They may avoid stillness or daydreaming at all costs, fearful that unexamined feelings will overwhelm them. As a result, they miss out on the natural and reparative and creative aspects of reverie. When a caregiver is consistently attuned, offering an environment where emotions can be processed rather than suppressed, the child internalizes this skill of self-soothing. As an adult, they're more likely to engage in reflective practices like meditation, journaling, or reverie without being overwhelmed. Conversely, if early attachment and containment was lacking, the individual often finds therapy or similar healing modalities crucial and very helpful to learn how to hold and metabolize their own feelings safely. Only then can they regain or develop the capacity for introspection and imagination, restorative mental space that helps integrate experiences and fosters emotional well-being. So if you've wondered why I continue to reference psychoanalysis in these discussions, it's because this is precisely the function of analysis and psychoanalytic psychotherapy in particular. It's to help individuals learn how to hold and metabolize their own feelings in the safety and metaphorical holding of the therapeutic relationship and environment. Understanding these dynamics shines a light on why some of us find it much harder to sit quietly with our thoughts or to trust the process of introspection. It isn't just about willpower or discipline. It's about whether we have learned from a very early age that our inner world is a safe place to inhabit. For any of the listeners who might find themselves insisting that none of this applies to them, I'd like to encourage you to let yourself sit a little longer with that. That happens to be one of the first defenses to pop up when confronted with uncomfortable yet resonant insights, and points to the importance of letting yourself wonder about what might be true to your own experience, rather than foreclosing the opportunity for deeper understanding by shutting the door to any further consideration. Recognizing this can be a powerful step toward self-compassion, and it underscores why therapeutic work that reestablishes containment and builds emotional resilience can also alleviate physical symptoms in the long run. When we allow ourselves a similar kind of internal reverie, we become both the caregiver and the one being cared for. We create a mental space that's open, accepting, and non-judgmental, allowing our psyche to explore and release whatever's swirling beneath the surface. In this way, reverie is more than just daydreaming. It's a powerful mechanism for containing and transforming our raw emotions, bridging the gap between our conscious awareness and the unconscious forces at play. And this aligns with what we've been discussing all along. The psyche isn't a static collection of thoughts and behaviors. It's a dynamic field of energy and meaning. Reverie helps us tune in and listen, and ultimately contain the unspoken parts of ourselves, just as a nurturing parent would. And if you're putting the pieces together, this is what is often referred to as the reparenting process, or working with our inner child in today's pop culture psychology references. Over time, this practice can ease inner tensions, reduce emotional blockages, and support the deeper healing work that we might undertake in therapy, energy work, or our own reflective practices. Here's a simple practice that you can try right now or whenever you need a moment of reconnection. First, find a comfortable seat and gently close your eyes. Place one hand over your heart if you feel like it, and take a few slow, deep breaths. As you inhale, imagine your energy flowing like a river throughout your body, clear, purposeful, and alive. On the exhale, notice if any area within you feels stuck or tense, and visualize your breath gently dissolving any blockages. Allow that river of energy to move more freely. Now, ask yourself quietly and without force, what does my soul want to tell me today? And sit in that state of reverie. Let any images, words, or feelings arise naturally without judgment or analysis. Just make note of what you notice. Think of this exercise as a daily check-in with your deeper self. You're not trying to make something happen. You're simply offering your soul an invitation to speak. Often the insights or sensations that arise can be subtle, maybe just a warm wave of emotion or a calm certainty about your next step. Other times you might experience a very clear message or intuitive nudge. Giving yourself permission to pause and be still in this way can be incredibly powerful. It's in this quiet space that we remember we are more than just minds racing from task to task. We are living, breathing constellations of energy, ever flowing, and ever connected to something greater. The soul, or the psyche, isn't only an idea that we're analyzing or debating. It's an experience that we live. It's the energy that enlivens every breath, the emotions that surge and ebb within us, and the subtle sense that we're part of something far greater than ourselves. And when we care for our energy, allowing it to flow, taking time to process and honor our emotions, and creating moments of reverie, we invite the wisdom of the soul to shine through. In that open space, real change can happen. We become more receptive to insights, more resilient in the face of challenges, and more intimately connected to the world around us and within us. If this conversation has stirred your curiosity, stay tuned. In our next episode, we'll journey even deeper into the mind-body connection, exploring how the seemingly mystical can intersect with cutting-edge science. We'll be looking at epigenetics, how our genes can be influenced by our environment, beliefs, and behaviors, and dive into the chakra system, an ancient map of our inner energy centers. Together, these perspectives reveal just how dynamically our bodies and souls interact. So remember, every beat of your heart, every breath you take, every thought you entertain is part of this grand tapestry. Nourish it, honor it, and watch what unfolds. And if today's episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your reflections with me on Instagram at Reverie_the collective or at reveriecollectiveteam@gmail.com. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Until next time, stay curious, nurture your energy, and let the reverie lead you.